Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Line Then Sports podcast. We got an online guest today, Malissa Smith. Melissa, thank you very much for coming on. A little bit of background about Melissa. She's a writer, she's an author, she's got a podcast host called The War Rooms. And there's a number of other great things that you do. But if we talk about all those, we'll be here all day. And I know you're on limited time, Melissa. How are you doing,
Thank
first of
you.
all?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Terry, for having me on the Lions Den podcast. I'm a big fan, and particularly I'm really happy to be engaging about sports with folks from the UK because when it comes to boxing, we're really all the same family, if you will.
Yeah, it's such a small family, the boxing circuit as well, isn't it? But they're
Yeah,
loyal
it
family,
really
right?
is. Yeah.
Love the sport. I want to learn about your background in boxing, Melissa.
hmm
Um, how did you get involved in boxing yourself?
Well, I actually have, but a little bit of a plug. I have an essay called "How Boxing Uncaged Me," and uh, it's all about my interrelation, my personal journey in boxing, which was as a kid. I always loved the sport. I grew up in a kind of a rough neighborhood on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and boys would settle their differences with their fists. But you always knew the kids that had actually studied boxing because they were the ones that had form. They were economical. They weren't winging from out in left field. And I always thought, well, that's really cool. That's what I want to do. But it just never occurred to me that I could as a girl. Although I used to wrestle with my brother because we'd watch wrestling, professional wrestling on
WWE,
TV.
WWF, like all that, Hulk Hogan and all.
Oh, before that, this is
Oh,
early
before that.
1960s. Yeah, I'm an old fart, so
Nah,
I'm real old. But we used to watch wrestling and with now here's some names like Bruno San Martino
San
and
Martino,
Prince of
yeah, legend.
Darkness. Yeah, I mean they were great wrestling characters. So I really like
Bob
martial
Buckland.
sports.
Bob Buckland, was he around?
No, I don't remember him. Him,
No.
I don't recall. But anyway, so fast forward, and then I used to watch it when Muhammad Ali was in his heyday, and that was really cool. Stay up late to watch it. We used to have in the U.S. there used to be a show on Saturdays called The Wide Wide World of Sports, and they usually had some kind of boxing. So I'd watch that on The Wide Wide World of Sports, and then I had this famous commentator named Howard Cosell, who really kind of made boxing he really popularized boxing and Muhammad Ali. It was like a partnership. So I used to love that. But I also love fighters like Kenny Norton. He was frankly my favorite heavyweight. He had this overhand right that was just like devastation. It would literally hammer somebody down several feet in the ground. It was crazy.
He was a beast when he came on. It's one of those fighters that can get overlooked because the
Yeah,
generation that he was in.
exactly. Yeah, because of the era he was in and the fighters that were around him. But man, he could box. And he got robbed his first fight with Ali, but with the second fight. But he was really great. And then fast forward into the 70s and into the 80s, the Tyson era, and then Marvelous Marv and Hagler, all those fighters, Sugar Ray Leonard. So I always kind of followed it, and then I would say, yeah, I'm going to box. And especially like late 80s, it became a thing. It was like you kind of had women were really participating in more martial sports. Certainly always in karate and things like that. But for me, it really hit my consciousness. And by the early 90s, like, damn it, I'm going into the gym. So I walked into Gleason's gym in January of 1997, and I've been there ever since. And started to train in effort in for real, and really, came to love the sport. And then, just my life evolved, and I ended up going back to finish my bachelor's degree, which I had never finished. I was in my 50s, and then I liked being in school so much, I decided to get my master's. And I went for my master's degree in liberal studies, which is, kind of an interesting, fun thing to do. If you're going to go back to school, do what you love. And
Exactly.
I ended up focusing my academic work on women's boxing because the question I had with it is, we consider men's boxing almost we almost deify, or we did for centuries, deify the boxer as this larger than life character, this stand-in for our martial requirements. There's this, you go back to Homer and you're thinking about boxing as, or the boxer as this rarefied character of honor. And then I thought, okay, so we have all of that. We still continue that in a way, but what about women? How do they fall into this paradigm of what has become an ultra masculine sport, and very much ties into the sense of what masculinity is. And in the case of the United Kingdom, most recently, really became tied into their own sense of nationhood. To be a boxer was to be British. To be British was to, have this sense of honor and duty. Especially sort of in the late 1700s, there was a real sense of boxing as national character. So, but where do women fit into that? And so I really tried to tease out the gender binary and the place of women in the boxing ring along that binary, and how it switches. Sometimes women are hated in the ring, and sometimes it's like, yeah, okay, great, go do your thing, ladies, go box. So trying to tease that out became an academic interest. And then out of that, I was able to write a history of the sport, which still remains as the only really full book length history of the sport. Which, I'm hoping that other scholars are out there to follow me in and correct my errors and really tease out other aspects of it. And I am at work on a second book now, which is going to look at the last 10 years of women in boxing, which has really had this significant change from 2012 to 2022. That arc of 10 years has really brought us a whole new understanding of women in the sport, whole new dynamism for promotion, for management, and actually the development of a fan base, especially in places like the United Kingdom, where it's gone from 0 to 100.
It's got absolutely. There's been so much promotion. Like we've had Sky Sports pushing it, which is a broadcaster in the UK. You got the Zone are pushing it. They've had some good little fights. I remember they had the Serrona and Katie Taylor fight. Madison Smith. That was huge. Did you go to that fight?
I did. I got to tell you, I was a puddle the whole time. I was just a puddle. I mean, that was crazy. That was crazy. It really was. It was 20,000, and it was me and 20,000 other people in a puddle. Nobody. I defy you to find a person that did not shed a tear at some point in that extraordinary day. That extraordinary night.
Both amazing athletes, weren't they? What do you think of Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano as athletes and as women in boxing?
Well, they're both remarkable athletes. They're both at the top of, they're elite athletes, and what they've been through to get to where they are has also been rather dramatic. I mean, very different trajectories, very different lives. I think, the British folks will probably know more about Katie Taylor's journey. Starting, her dad was a coach. She pretended to be a boy in order to contest in the sport until it was finally legalized when she was a teenager. And she's just this remarkable all-around athlete anyway. She was a remarkable footballer, and known in Ireland for that skill. So, and then just had this series of extraordinary wins as the elite women's amateur boxing grew. She grew with it as an athlete, winning European championships, but also winning world championships as a lightweight, and won the first gold medal for the lightweight category for women at the London Games in 2012, alongside Nicola Adams, the great British flyweight fighter who won gold, and Claressa Shields, who won gold. Katie continued, and I have to say that it was Katie's prowess in the ring, but also as an ambassador for the sport, that really helped push the sport over the line to even become an Olympic sport in 2012. The AIBA, then the governing body for Olympic boxing or elite level competition, had put in a request to have the sport be considered for the 2008 Beijing Games. IOC said, listen, we really believe in you, but you got to show us more. Come back for 2012. And it was really Katie Taylor's prowess and Katie Taylor's participation in test bouts in front of the Olympic Committee that helped put it over the line. So, this is kind of like the hidden aspect of her influence in the sport, even as an amateur. Without her pushing and her brilliance as an athlete and a boxer, it means that the Olympic movement has less of a chance of actually getting the sport over the line. That's how pivotal she was.
She's such an inspiration.
As an amateur.
Such a humble young woman.
Yes, humble. So then she continued to contest as an amateur. Time wasn't right in 2012 to turn pro yet. Same thing with Nicola. Same thing with Claressa. Tasha. All those ladies. It's like no, not right yet. Then she competed in Brazil. We know now that there was some real funny business with the scoring because of Aiba's corruption. That's another whole conversation. And that broke her heart, but it also gave her new determination for a new field, which was to take what she had been doing as really a trailblazer on the Olympic side and the amateur side of the sport into the pros. And started a relationship with Eddie Hearn in Matchroom Boxing, helped him deploy the DAZN platform for Matchroom Boxing, and the rest is history in terms of what she was able to accomplish.
Yeah.
Serrano has a totally different trajectory.
I only heard of Serrano when she joined up with Jake Paul. It was the first time I heard of it, and it's crazy,
man.
right? But
you're talking a woman who has won belts in 7 weight categories.
7 weight classes. That's what I mean.
Okay. Weight classes. She's, from Puerto Rico, lived in Brooklyn most of her life. Listen, when she won, she fought on HBO against Heather Hardy when she won Heather Hardy's WBA featherweight title. Those ladies are $20,000 to be on HBO. Can you believe that shit? $20,000. That's it.
For what title shots as well?
On HBO. And they begged. They had to beg. And they were like, oh, we don't really have money. So Serrano won a lot of baby belts, started to win bigger belts. And Heather Hardy was really the first person to box at, well, let me step back a little. There was a new arena that was built in Brooklyn, New York called Barclays Center, which is really fantastic venue. And there's the home of the Nets basketball team and all that stuff. But it was also became a boxing venue with PBC when they were really first starting out and had a lot of coverage in the United States on different networks. Showtime, HBO had PBC, Fox. It was even on mainstream television. And Heather Hardy was the first woman to fight on PBC cards. Amanda Serrano was the second. P.S. They don't even have women anymore. Don't ask me why. Giant question. What the hell is wrong with you people? But that's another story. But Serrano was fighting on those cards too. They really weren't showing up on television, but she did. She was the first fighter in the U.S. to actually be on some kind of network television show. In 2015, she appeared on CBS Sports against a fighter, a little 6-rounder. But it was the first time in like 10 years. It was crazy. They could not find women boxing in the United States unless it was a local market. And occasionally, one of the Spanish language channels might have, like Univision might have something from Mexico or New Mexico or something, but otherwise there was nothing.
Do you think MMA played a part in having more female boxers come in? Because you had things like Ronda Rousey, you had all these other athletes.
Yeah, it certainly helped.
Yeah,
it's a good question, and I think with Showtime it helped because they had they had Strike Force on Showtime, and that's where Misha Tate first started doing MMA, and Ronda Rousey was doing MMA, and they were doing really well and had great numbers. Then when it was bought out by UFC, kind of went by the wayside, but UFC started to have women. They had Ronda Rousey as their first. And it did have an impact because it's sort of like, hey guys, come on, you're showing women on MMA. Why? What happened to boxing? You used to have them on all the time. I mean, it was standard. So it did push, it did help, but not much. HBO didn't have women on their fight cards really till the end. I had Cecilia Brækhus fought Callie Reese on HBO for the welterweight titles, and she was the first. Cecilia Brækhus was the first undisputed female boxer in the 4-belt era, so she was an extraordinary fighter. That was on an HBO card, and the second was Amanda Serrano and Heather Hardy. So Amanda dipped in. They both, Amanda Serrano and Heather Hardy, both went into MMA. They were so frustrated with boxing. Now Serrano both of them had a little bit of a background. Heather had started as a kickboxer, but very limited time, and Serrano had some martial arts as well. And they both made more money in MMA than they ever made in boxing in those days. That was crazy. Heather Hardy tells a story about how, they actually like sent a car for her to pick her up. It's like, what? I don't have to take a subway. I mean,
you're talking about elite athletes. Elite
athletes. That's how the frig they were treated.
That's
so Serrano is, she calls it's like the real deal. She really is the real deal. She's a brilliant boxer. She's a great, she's great at body work. She's a true knockout artist, and her battle with Katie Taylor was one for the ages, and it deserved fight of the year. It got fight of the year in some instances, like the fight of the year, not just female fight of the year, the fight of the year. And then Serrano, when she won her undisputed this past February, she fought Erica Cruz, which is a tough girl from Mexico. Oh my God, that was 10 rounds. They threw over 1,000 punches.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Pace. I mean, that was insane.
Pace was pretty crazy.
It was insane. Absolutely insane fight.
Did you want to see the Serrano v Taylor fight too? Would you want to see that again?
I would love to see that, but whether it happens now is unknown.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the homecoming fight. Serrano had an injury. Now she's fighting Heather Hardy in the summer in August, and that's a rematch. There's a lot of people that say, "What are you doing? Of course you're gonna, throw Hardy from one end of the field to the other, one end of the ring to the other." But we'll see what happens. I know Heather's training like hell. She looks great. She's already at weight. It's the best I've ever seen her. She has a whole new team, and a whole new attitude.
She knows that it's her lottery ticket as well, right?
Yeah, this is the best. Yeah, it's the most she'll ever make.
Yeah. If she wins,
I mean, look, this is a woman who was earning 20,000. There's this story. I think that Ellie Scottney wanted to fight her, and they offered her like some amount of money to come down to 126 in 5 weeks. She's like, "Are you insane? What's happening?"
Ellie Scottney's a great fighter, though, from this end of the pond. Very skillful.
Yeah, but it was like, come on. Or Sky, one of those. Sky, no, maybe it was Sky. So whoever's at 126, so I forget. Sky?
Yeah, Sky. Yeah. Oh, Sky. Yeah, Sky Nicholson.
Sky. It was Sky. So like, come on, girl. Yeah. Look,
it's a level up, but money.
Alem Mekhaled was crazily underpaid for the undisputed bout with Alicia Baumgartner. So on February 2nd on that card, So women don't. It's great that Amanda and Katie Taylor earn $1 million. absolutely deserved it. It is great that Shields and Marshall earned some money and earned some cash.
Fight as well.
It's great that women are earning $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. That's great. But okay, let's talk about Claressa Shields. She is won undisputed 3 times. Okay.
3 times?
Yeah, she won middle twice and super middle.
Oh, sorry,
once.
I think they're 3 different. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Not 3 weight classes, but 3 times. Okay. She finally, cracked 7 figures in a 2-fight deal. Let's talk about Canelo. He makes 8 figures. High 8 figures.
Yeah.
All right.
But do you think that's the history? So do you reckon that's because of the depth and history that male boxing has? Whereas that's been established, as you said, since the 17th.
Yeah, absolutely the case. Absolutely the case. But, still lowballing women at $20,000 to put their lives on the line on these cards and saying, oh, we don't have any money, but offering the boy 50 for the underside on a B card, please.
Are you a fan of 2-minute rounds as well?
I'm more of a 3-minute round person, but that's the game that's developed. Look, it's 3-minute rounds now in the amateurs.
Yeah,
it's the same as the boys. So elite amateurs rather. The thing with a 2-minute round is it's one heck of an exciting fight. You never stop for 2 minutes. You got you fight 20 minutes wall to wall. Again, look at Serrano Cruz. That's over 1,000 punches. Okay. Throw a piece. It's approximately 1,000 punches a piece in 20 minutes. Now look at a typical male fight. That's 36 minutes. You're at 500 punches. Maybe 600 punches.
Yeah. So sometimes you want the male fights to finish early as well, because it just drags on, doesn't it? It drags on.
Can they just sit there and they go, they're posturing. Oh, okay, I'll shift this way. Like, oh, I'm going to move here now. Oh, shoulder roll.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. That's an interesting
so maybe make everybody 2 minutes, and see, this is the thing that pisses me off. It's like MMA, 3 5-minute rounds or 5 5-minute rounds. That's it. Boys and girls. So what's the difference here? What is the difference? And MMA is brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting kicked in the head. You're not just getting hit in that, punched in the head. You're getting kicked in the head.
Need
elbows, roundhouse like this. I mean, come on, it's street fighting. Okay, it's elite street fighting. We know what that's like.
I'm very happy I chose boxing as a sport, not MMA, because
I like to grapple because I used to wrestle when I was a little kid, but no. It's nasty. You get hurt and you see people with cauliflower ears. When the hell have we seen that?
Exactly.
The damage is extreme.
I think wearing these little get worse. I think because it's still a new sport, the way they make weight loss, the way they compete, I think this generation, I think the next generation, you'll see the effects of it, because it's still new, as I said, whereas boxing has had that 300-400 year history.
Exactly. We already know what happens to boxers. We already know that there's a specific, like CTE is to football. There's dementia pugilistica, right? It's a certain type of dementia you get from getting hit in the head. God knows how many times. Boxing. There's associations with Parkinson's with boxing. This sport kills you. People die in this sport. People die every year boxing.
Which is another reason why fair pay,
men and women. So, you look at a fighter like Beck Connolly, I can't even watch her fight anymore. She's just, she's a journeywoman fighter. She's a professional opponent. Yeah. She does a decent job, I guess, but she gets beat and hit in the head and knocked out and knocked down.
It's a living. It is a living. I've spoken to a few people from the UK that are journeymen, and their stories are so interesting. Why they go into that field? That I had a guy who was named the Britain's worst boxer. He had 2 wins and 52 losses, and he
Yeah.
says he had to do it. But the reason he had to do it was because he would go to a boxing show. They put him up in a hotel. He had a place to stay during the weekend. Have
Yeah.
that fight,
Yeah.
and you
I
get
saw,
£2,000.
yeah, exactly. You make, it's a living, but what you left with is no brain.
Yeah,
I see it at the gym. There are folks who make a living being an opponent sparring. They get $20, $30,
yeah,
and they get, and you don't know who you're, like, so in some cases, like, the coach is there, the trainer's there, they're working on certain things, everybody's got headgear, and it's fairly controlled. But there are some fighters, especially in a gym, there are people in gyms that are really nuts.
yeah.
And they
Yeah,
go in
a
there
lot of
to
aggression, and
beat
then
somebody. They
yeah.
want to beat, they want to hurt people. You
Mhm.
see it in, a little sparring, you see it. So that happens in the gym.
It does.
Well, we
It
know
does.
you're in the gyms, you know,
I'm in the gym.
you know who the crazies are, and you kind of like, oh, avoid that guy.
Yeah. Well, in our the way we used to do it was like, if there's a crazy guy, we want to go in there and face him. That's how stupid we were in our youth as well. Like, we want to prove we're
Yeah.
better than these people.
Yeah, right.
But that's that boxers think rather differently in terms of that, right?
No, yeah, the boxers like, stay away. No, and
I
they're like, oh, I'll give you rounds. No, it's okay. I got
got,
it.
yeah, I'm gonna go. My
You
bus is
gotta
around
go,
in
or
5
no, no, it's good. I already got it. I got my stable.
minutes. Melissa, I want to go back to your book. I'm so
Hmm.
fascinated with your book, The History of Women's Boxing.
Hmm.
I'm going to be honest. I haven't had a chance to read it. I've ordered it Amazon,
Okay.
so
Oh, sweet. Thank you.
I'm going to have a read through it and see what it is. What I'm very interested in 2015, I went back to
Hmm.
university, similar to you. I did my master's, and I did it on the
Good
development
for
of
you.
female boxing since London 2012. Um,
Wow. Oh my
yeah,
God. Do you have a
but
paper that you can share with me?
yeah, well, I didn't
Okay.
publish it. I should have published
Oh,
it,
okay.
but it's. I had interviews with. It's all done now with Nicola Adams, some of the female GB boxers on there about how
Hmm.
they feel the
Hmm.
development of female boxing has gone.
Cool.
It's really, I was really impressed with everyone's thinking. Like, as you said, Nicola Adams, she had to pretend she was a boy in the gym,
Yeah.
in gyms, and
As a kid. Yeah.
as a kid, and later she got her identity of female boxing, and she succeeded in her sport. Um, this mine is really interesting, but I want to find out more about your book. What was the reasoning why you started that? What you started writing that?
Well, as I mentioned, I had pursued my master's and wrote my thesis, which was called "Boundaries in Motion: Women's Boxing," which was again, looking at the what the gender binary or the boundaries of gender really mean, and use the case of women's boxing as a way to explore that idea. As I was doing research for my thesis, I noticed there were no books. There was nothing there. I relied on journal articles, which were not in abundance, but there certainly were some. There were some scholars like Jennifer Hargreaves, is a brilliant scholar who wrote a lot about women's boxing in the 90s, and a few other scholars, Kath Woodward, um, who did just brilliant work. But there wasn't a lot of other stuff. And when I graduated and got my master's degree, I gave a paper on women's boxing and the gender binary at a popular culture conference, and was approached by a publisher, by Rowman and Littlefield, to say, listen, we're looking to expand our titles in women's boxing. Would you be interested, or not in women's boxing, but women's sports? Would you be interested in writing a book for us in sport? I was like, oh my God, well, great, thank you. So what we landed on was writing a history, because it didn't exist.
Wow.
So that's kind of where it started. And I looked at the 300-year arc of boxing as we know boxing. which started with James Bigg essentially in the 1720s and went fast forward to the Olympics 2012. So it was just about a 300-year history, and was fascinated by the role of boxing in society. And I really took the angle, not, couldn't really describe fights because there really was no source material per se, little bits here and there, but try also to place boxing within the context of popular culture and the social structure of each era that I covered. So what were women doing in the 1720s? Well, fully 1/3 to, a quarter to a third of all playwrights with plays in London were women at that time. Did you know that? I didn't know that until I did the research. So women had a place and a role in popular culture. And the women who contested as prize fighters were entertainers, but they had other jobs, But similar to boxing now, prize fighting is about entertainment. Ultimately, it's about money. It's about entertainment. And, in England, the sports were kind of they were played out at fairgrounds. And I think starting in the Restoration in the 1660s, that era, all the fun of life had been squeezed out under Cromwell. And with the Restoration, people started to party and have fun again. And among other things were fairgrounds sports events, which were mostly really things we would hate now, like bear baiting. You'd have people fighting bears or bears fighting bears, and you had cockfighting, dog fights, And eventually you had prize fighting, which at that time was basically people with swords, cudgels, short swords, and they beat the crap out of each other with swords. And out of that came boxing, because it's sort of like, well, okay, this is boring. What if I hit you? So you'd have a sword in one hand and fists in the other, and that was the genesis of what we know of as boxing. And the concept of some kind of marked off area, some kind of ring area. And that was, again, by a man named James Bigg, who developed, there were these little amphitheaters that were very much based on like Roman Colosseums, with step down seating, and then an arena at the bottom where the fighters would be. And they would each hold on to like a gold sovereign. And if you dropped it, you lost, or if you knocked out, you lost. And women started to contest it the same way that men did. And then they were tag teams. You'd have 2 men fighting and 2 women fighting together. It's like doubles.
It'd be like those Misfit shows back then. That's where they got the idea from, didn't they? The old tag team.
Yeah, I mean, tag teams have been around for a long time. So it played out in popular culture. It kind of ebbed and flowed. Boxing ebbed and flowed. It was illegal. It was legal. It was, by the late 1700s, it had royal patronage, so it had quite a lot of popularity. Women were still fighting. It was an anathema. No, it wasn't. It was okay. By the time, the end of the beginnings of the Victorian era, boxing was shut down. There were scandals. I mean, we have scandals now. They had scandals there. Fight fixing, gambling, all of that pretty much shut down boxing. So some fighters came to the United States, wasn't really boxing here, but there were impresarios who started to do little boxing shows. By the 1870s in the United States, there was this guy named Harry Hill who had started a bar in the Bowery in downtown Manhattan. And he used to put on boxing shows, and he was a bit of a promoter. And he had this idea of having 2 women fight, and he got a tremendous amount of publicity in the local papers. And it was like, and then they fought in this bar on the stage, and it got a lot of popularity. People came, thought it was great. had great press. Press was like around the world. There were notifications about this fight. And he started to put it on as a nightly event because it became very popular. And that was the nexus of the beginnings of women's boxing in the 1880s, 1870s, 1880s, all the way through the 1890s in the United States. And then it crossed the pond, and you had women fighting in fairgrounds, boxing venues, like the most famous that comes down to us today is a woman named Polly Fairclough, who became Polly Fairclough Burns. And she fought on boxing shows at the fairgrounds. And they would have boxing booths, which was basically a big tent. You'd have a ring, and people would come in and say, if you go 3 rounds and beat me, we'll give you 25 pounds. Of course, nobody ever won, but very rarely did anyone. Yeah. And Polly Fairclough was one of those fighters.
Wow.
So it became popular on the variety theater stage out of that. And she was an actress who picked up a boxing act, basically. And that's what you had is, part of variety theater was things like, the first show that I know of that had women boxing in a show was like, I think it was like 1874, 1875, or a man and woman pretending to be French or British, had an act where they did sword fighting, and then they did running around the stage, and then they ended it with boxing match, and she'd knock them out or something like that. It's hugely, hugely popular. Hugely popular. They had bookings all over the United States doing this act. And I think it's what my opinion is it is what inspired Harry Hill to put it in his little variety theater because of that success. Because they would come back and they would play other theaters and it had success. So then you had women who had started boxing in his shows, started to go around the country on various variety theater circuits. And then you'd have these acts with 2 women fighting or women on boxing apparatus. By the 1890s, you had women who came out and they would do shadow boxing, and then they would have, speed box. It's kind of crazy.
Right. There's so much depth of history in that in there.
It really is. It was shocking to me.
Yeah. Have you heard of a British boxer called Jane Couch?
Oh, of course. Jane Couch made British boxing.
Yeah.
Without Jane Couch, there's no British boxing. Legalized.
Yeah.
And it almost cost her her life, What's interesting about Jane Couch, she fought so hard with the BBBFC to get permission to fight. Had a lawyer, took it to court. They won the case. They have to allow women to fight because it's equal rights, right? Women, you can't prevent somebody from earning a living as a boxer, which is how women began to fight in the United States. Same premise. This equal right to employment. You can't deny employment, so you have to allow boxing. But what Jane Couch faced after she became a professional was horrific. The way she was vilified by fans, by officials, managers, promoters was horrific. It was a harder fight than any fight she ever had in the ring. And she will say, she'll ask herself, was this really worth it? And you have other trailblazers like Barbara Buttrick, who is a British treasure. She's a British national treasure. She tried to do this in the late 1940s and ended up leaving Britain and came to the United States and was the first woman to be licensed as a boxer in the state of Texas in 1957. Mm-hmm. And people forget, like, what? There was legalized boxing for women in Texas? Yeah. She fought. Wasn't legalized again till the 70s.
That's the beauty of the book that you found out so much unique information that I'm finding out about now. And I don't really need the book because I feel like you've told me everything, but I've got the book.
You're sweet.
And also, just looking ahead, you've got another book coming out in 2024. which you
I
told
do. Yeah, the working title is The Promise of Women's Boxing. It's a look at what's happened between the Olympics in 2012 and and up to about 2022. So on through what I'm calling the era of the super fights, undisputed boxers fighting undisputed boxers. I mean, look, we had Chantel Cameron fighting Katie Taylor. That was the first time two undisputed fighters, two different weight classes, ever fought each other in the history of the world. So there you go.
and they put in a great fight as well. That was a great.
They put on a fantastic fight. Pathos, it had everything. It had everything. So writing about sort of the incidents, but also the stories behind it. Why do people fight? Why are women willing to put themselves at risk? What is it they're trying to prove? Why does Claressa Shields do what she does? Why does she have such belief in herself, as the quote drives some people crazy?
Yeah.
But what is that about her? Where did her life begin that brought her to this miracle of her life now? Or Katie Taylor, or Amanda Serrano, any of these fighters that are elite, but also the other fighters, the fighters who haven't made it that big. We have a fighter, Tiara Brown. She's in her mid-30s now. She's a featherweight fighter, American fighter. She won multiple national titles in the United States, never made it to the Olympics, but was this really highly touted fighter. She's 15-0, but can't get promotional deals, can't get on cards. Why is that?
Oh, how old is she? She's in the mid-30s, right?
She's in her mid-30s, yeah. Really good fighter, can't get promotional deals. Had a trajectory, pandemic happened, she's having to be a road warrior.
We have to get on the podcast. We have to put her out there a bit more. We had one fighter who we had on the podcast, Joanna. She was her manager contacted me, said she wanted to do a podcast to promote her story. I said, yep, let's get her on. And she gone and won the European title. And then Eddie Hearn says we're keeping an eye on her. We're going to potentially sign her. So there's always, hopefully there's potential out there for women's boxing now.
I know she's really doing a full court press on using social media. And that's another thing, you can, but with social media, it's kind of changed the landscape because you can get at people and get stuff. So I'm trying to tease that out in this work and talk a little bit about its international focus, like how did boxing get started in Japan and in Mexico and in Argentina, where they had like the early women who were winning all of these big belts were not from the United States, and they weren't from the UK. They were from Mexico, Argentina, Japan, South Korea. Why is that? So I'm trying to as I'm writing the work, I'm teasing all that out. It's a little bit late, but working hard on it.
As long as you're working hard. Melissa, thanks for this. I wanted to ask you a few questions about boxing, about what's currently going on in the boxing, in your opinion. So this is your opinion. So I want to ask you, in your opinion, who is the current queen of female boxing?
I'm going to go with Claressa Shields. Just because
no biased American. Is that
it's being not biased American? No, in terms of the quality of her career and her ability to fight, I don't see anyone touching her.
Her confidence,
and certainly there's no one to touch her right now. I mean, maybe there's certain fighters coming up that might have developed enough to be able to really touch her in a ring, but right now nobody can go near her.
So Claressa Shields is your main bet. How about from the boxers that you've seen or you see coming through, which do you reckon have the potential to reach the levels that the current Claressa Shields, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrona?
Well, certainly in
top three.
Yeah, I mean, I do love Ellie Scotney. I think she's a terrific boxer. Caroline Dubois, man, she's the real deal. I just saw this fighter, Beatriz Ferreira, out of Brazil. She's 3-0. She's an Olympian. She fought on a DAZN card this weekend. To me, she won the weekend. I mean, this past week, we're recording this on the weekend that Marshall just after Marshall defeated Franchon Cruz to become the new undisputed super middleweight titleist. Natasha Jonas fought this weekend over Candy Wyatt. But to me, it was Beatrice Ferrara who won the weekend in terms of the best effort and just balanced fighter. She was crazy great. So I really like her. I like Ramla Ali. I was shocked by her loss, but people lose.
Yeah, it's boxing, right?
It's boxing, but I like her. I do like her. The Osei Jonas, she's an American fighter, an Olympian. She's quite good. Again, baby career, but yeah, Caroline Dubois, if she goes up in weight, she could challenge Shields. Shea Green could challenge Shields, but they need a lot more before they can.
I think Caroline was a lightweight.
She is a lightweight, but she can go up.
Yeah, people can go up that. Okay. Yeah.
And I like Chantel Cameron. She's a good fighter. She's strong, man.
She's brilliant.
She's very, very strong.
She's really put it on Katie Taylor, didn't she?
Yeah, that was tough.
Tough.
But yeah, I like Caroline Dubois. Beatrice Ferrara, I'm really hot on her. She was fantastic.
And one more. Give me one more out of those three.
I got to give you three. Trying to think. Maybe I'll say Jonas. I won't.
It's a hard one, right?
It is kind of a hard one because, I love what Ebony Jones is doing. I love her.
Really, Ebony Jones, the Australian.
Yeah, I love her. I mean, she's so fun. So I like fighters like that because they remind us that the game is fun.
Yeah.
That it's about entertainment.
It is.
It's not so serious. Is it? I mean, Marlon Esparza is fighting this weekend.
Good talent.
And she's fighting an Argentine fighter. I think her name is Avila. She's really good too. I mean, there's some wonderful fighters in the love City Estrada. Oh my God, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing. So they got some really good talent.
Alicia Baumgartner, my God, and she's fighting Christina Leonardatu, who hasn't fought as much, but she's a really good boxer too.
She's a beast, isn't she?
It's going to be a big monster fight.
Yeah,
it's going to be a monster fight on July 15th.
I was very surprised that Alicia beat that was it. I was quite surprised. She won.
I wasn't, but yeah.
Oh, you weren't? No,
because she's a more flexible fighter. I think, in my opinion, Baumgartner got in Mayer's head, and Mayer couldn't. She just could not. She couldn't get her out of her head.
Yeah.
And Baumgartner's got power, man. I will never forget her shot.
She's got.
Well, aside from the fact that she's cut she's just a natural athlete with that kind of body, low body fat and so on. But when she took out Terry Harper, oh my God, I never saw
on her feet as well. On her feet,
literally knocked her out on her feet.
Yeah, man, that was a knockout.
That was a monster shot.
And it would be wrong for me not to ask you one more question, and we have to ask about the men's division. We've talked about women's division.
Yeah, sure. You can ask me about men's fighting.
The big fight at the end of the month. I'm sure you know which one I mean. Terrence Crawford versus
Errol. About time, 5 years too late.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
it's not Pacquiao and Mayweather, though, is it?
Who I think?
I want to ask you
of those two.
I know who I think, but who do you think and why?
I like Spence. I've watched him across his career, but for this, the nasty big dog is Terrence. Sorry, Crawford every day, all day.
I'm with you.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
To me.
But why do you think he wins it?
He's a nastier fighter.
He is. He's a mean buzz.
He is mean.
I think Errol Spence. What's happened outside the ring that could potentially affect them as well.
Well, I think so too. I mean, look, he's
Hope
had
not.
car accidents. He's got all sorts of stuff going on. But to me, Crawford gets in that ring and he's undeterred.
Yeah.
He is undeterred in the ring. He's got focus and he's undeterred. I do not see Spence getting anywhere near him. To me.
Yeah, that's
I would have liked to have seen this fight 4 or 5 years ago, but
yeah.
women do it.
I think that's
Men don't.
boxing, isn't it? I think we have to give credit to Ryan Garcia and Tank. They fought in their prime, didn't they? I thought,
Yeah, they did, and that was great. It was a
yeah,
great fight and great that they did it. And Kambosos having that shock win and then fighting Haney and then fighting him again. There's some good stuff going on. Heavyweights,
oh, you've
that's
got
kind
the
of
heavyweight.
collapsed.
You've got the heavyweight.
Collapsed.
Yeah.
Collapsed.
Yeah. But do you know what? People
Right.
have short memories. They'll forget this period in a couple of once they make.
Oh no! All you need is somebody to come up and then and have a couple of good fights. The next Anthony,
Yeah.
the next AJ, and we're good to go.
What do you think of AJ?
I had a lot of belief in AJ. I really did, but I think he's turned into a brat. He needs to get somebody smack him in his head and get his focus back. He's a brat. What he did.
He's over in Texas. He's training hard. He's working.
I'm hoping he's back, and I'm hoping he stopped being a brat because his last time out, that was brat behavior.
Yeah,
What
twice.
the hell? Come on.
Against one of your
Don't
Americans.
do that.
Who was it? It was Jermaine Franklin.
Yeah. But that was unforgivable crap, Just don't do stuff like that. Grow up. That's like Berto. Not Berto. That's like Broner territory. You do that crap.
Broner's a conversation for another day.
Well, that's another whole thing. But and I'm not saying that AJ is Broner. I'm saying that AJ's got to stop the brat stuff.
Yeah.
Stop being a brat. Man up. Do your thing. Be a boxer. Be a fighter. But don't own who you are. Don't do that crap.
Yeah. I think a lot of people keep pushing him to say, "Oh, we want the old AJ back." And he tries and goes.
He's
back
not the old AJ.
He's not. He's a much.
He got knocked out. He's a smarter fighter, but what he is not is relaxed. Oh. He needs to relax and he needs to get over himself. He's in his own way. To me, I watch him fight. I watch a guy that's in his own way. Get your head out your butt and just relax, dude, and do your thing. And then don't be a brat actor and I should have won the crap. Give me a break. It's boxing. Grow up. You're making millions of friggin' dollars. You are the king. Stop.
That's a lovely way to end it. Thank you very much.
And look, I love AJ. I really want him to win. I want him to do well. I want him to succeed. I want his success because what he represents is important. What he represents to young boxers, to young black boxers in England, in the UK, and around the world, to people of color is really important.
Yeah.
So just get off yourself.
Yeah. He's when you come, he was such a humble, hardworking person, and that's people can look up to. But as you said, in his last few fights, he's shown mental sort of lapses or weaknesses.
Yeah. You gotta get it back, dude. Or you don't win. Even if you win, you don't win.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you now. You brought up Anthony Joshua. I'm gonna ask you one last question, please.
Sure.
Tyson Fury.
When I first saw him fight Klitschko, I thought, "What the hell is this clown? Who is this clown?" But he's a really good fighter. He's got, for a man that big, that giant. To me, I mean, I'm 5'4", right? So he's like seriously up in the stratosphere to me. To have that flexibility, to have that, he fights like a middleweight. He doesn't fight like a heavyweight. He fights like a middleweight, right? He moves. He's got terrific movement in the ring. He's got great feet. He's fast. He's strong. But his character drives me nuts.
He's very up and down, and he seems like very up and down character.
Well, yeah, and that's look, he's owned his mental health issues, and I get that. But the character stuff can can really be debilitating. I think he's a great fighter. I give him his due. To me, he's the best boxer of his era as a pure boxer. He's a great boxer.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's got I mean, the fact that he got up after getting that hit, that getting knocked down from Wilder, he got up. The fact that he got up, that was insane.
But was that in your eyes? Was that in New York or was that LA, that fight? The first one?
No, it wasn't in New York. I don't think it was.
I think it was LA.
I thought it was.
Yeah, first one
I
was
think it was
LA.
LA or Vegas. That's where he used to fight out of, but it wasn't in New York. But
Yeah, I thought you'd have been all over that one if it was. You would have been.
Yeah, I would have tried to go, but I think he's a brilliant boxer. I really do. I give him his due. He's a tremendous athlete in the ring. Shockingly brilliant as a boxer. You know, he slips. He does it all in a way that most heavyweights never do.
Yeah.
And then you do that in a 6'8" frame, however tall he is. It's extraordinary. You don't see AJ able to do that. AJ does not fight like that. He's too muscle bound. He needs to lose some muscle, and he needs to change his physiognomy a little bit.
Yeah.
Those too many
quite
weights.
Slim when he was younger, apparently. He's quite slim. And he's hit the weights and put the weight on. But all that does is muscle mass. It wears you down more, doesn't it?
Yeah, as it doesn't help you as a boxer. If you're gonna, you need weights, you need strength, but you do it with lower reps, lower weights, fast, higher reps, and then you're not getting muscle bound like that.
There you go. You're a PT as well.
But that's how you do it. You know, and that's what you need: lean muscle mass for boxing. You need fast twitch. You know, and you really where you need it is in your legs, and that's what AJ has. AJ has it in his legs. He's incredible, and he's amazing legs. You know, so that strength, his torque is insane, right? Because he has his legs, and if he's down, if he sits down, which he doesn't freaking do, but if he sits down on his punches, nobody can touch him. But he doesn't. He doesn't sit down on his punches, and it's not a question of fighting short. You can fight tall, but he's not taking advantage of his best gift, which is like that butt and those thighs. That's where the power is. That's where the pivots are. That's where the ability to dance around the ring. You know, and as a fighter, if he takes advantage of that a little more and stops that European jab out there like this and become a little looser, he's unstoppable to me. It reinvents his game and makes him unstoppable, but he doesn't have that. He can't slip like that.
Well, he's got that American coach, Derek James, now.
Hopefully that encourages him, because look, Tyson Fury learned it.
Yeah.
Tyson Fury did not always box that way. And he's a student of it. And I think AJ would do himself very well if he gets a little more of that style. Just slip, just move, dance. It's a dance. Boxing is dancing. It's art and it's dancing.
You hit the nail right on the head there. That's what boxing really is. It's a dance. If you can move. Well, you see the best: Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali. All of them had amazing footwork.
Yeah, that's why Katie Taylor's strength, her footwork. Serrano too, amazing footwork.
Lomachenko, how can we forget Lomachenko?
Oh my God! Well, he's like from another planet.
He is crazy.
I don't know. He's like, wait, I was here. I'm over here.
I know.
How did you move that fast?
Where did you get him?
No, and Usyk is the same way. He's just a bigger version of Loma.
Yeah, he's from the same sort of school, isn't he?
Melissa, Ukraine.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much for sharing some of your knowledge with us, some of your thoughts as well on AJ. We'll tag him in on your thoughts and see if he reads it.
No, I love him. Don't get me wrong. He needs to wake up. Then he'll be great.
He is definitely. He's one of my favorite fighters.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. We just, you need some help.
We care and want to be better, which is
that's it.
Okay, but no, thank you very much for coming on. We should do this again sometime soon. Definitely.
I would love it. So, and just send me links and everything else, and I'll put it out there for you and everything.
Amazing, right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. tune in, follow Melissa. What's your social media handles?
I am at Girl Boxing Now on Twitter, on Instagram, on the new threads. At Girl Boxing Now, that's me. My website is girlboxing.org. My books are available on Amazon, UK, and in the US. A History of Women's Boxing. That's it.
Great. Thank you very much, Melissa. Guys, thank you very much for listening. Take care.